The radio crackled with static at 3:47 hours, piercing the pre-dawn silence of Forward Operating Base Phantom. Staff Sergeant Kira, Nightshade Volkov sat motionless in the operations tent, her weathered hands wrapped around a cup of cold coffee that had long since lost its warmth. The transmission that followed would change everything anyone thought they knew about precision warfare. Overwatch, this is Alpha Team. We have 20 hostiles dug in at grid reference November 742. They've got our guys pinned down hard. We need immediate sniper support. The voice belonged to Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison, a SEAL team leader whose reputation preceded him into every briefing room from Quantico to Kandahar. His tone carried the weight of men dying in real time. Kira's pale blue eyes flicked toward the tactical display, calculating angles and distances with the mechanical precision of a Swiss timepiece. The target zone sat 800 meters northeast of their position, nestled in a maze of concrete buildings that had been chewed apart by months of urban warfare. 20 confirmed hostiles. Her spotter, Corporal Danny Martinez, was already reaching for his range-finding equipment when the tent flap burst open. Not happening, Volkov. Commander Morrison's voice cut through the humid air like a blade. He stood silhouetted against the orange glow of distant explosions, his tactical vest still smoking from whatever hell he'd just escaped. I need my best shooter on this. Where's Hendricks? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every man in that tent knew that Staff Sergeant Rick Hendricks had been medevaced 3 days prior with a shattered collarbone, courtesy of an improvised explosive device that had turned their last patrol into a nightmare of twisted metal and screaming. But Morrison's eyes remained fixed on Kira, as if willing his preferred sniper back into existence through sheer force of will. "Sir, Hendricks is," Martinez began, but Kira's subtle hand gesture silenced him. She understood the mathematics of military politics as clearly as she understood ballistics. In Morrison's world, precision shooting was a man's game, and she was an unwelcome variable in an equation that had no room for doubt. "Commander, with respect," Kira's voice carried the quiet confidence of someone who had looked death in the face and found it wanting. "Your men don't have time for your preferences. They have time for results." She stood slowly, her slight frame dwarfed by the tactical gear that seemed to swallow her whole. But her eyes held something that made seasoned warriors take notice, the cold certainty of someone who had never missed when it mattered. Morrison's jaw tightened as another burst of automatic weapons fire echoed across the compound. Time was bleeding away, and his men were dying while he wrestled with assumptions that felt increasingly irrelevant against the backdrop of real combat. The challenge was set, the clock was ticking, and somewhere in the darkness beyond the perimeter, 20 enemy fighters were about to discover why they called her Nightshade. The weapons cache that served as Kira's armory was a temple of precision engineering, each rifle mounted with the reverence typically reserved for religious artifacts. Her fingers traced the familiar contours of her Barrett M82A1, a 50 caliber beast that had earned its reputation in conflicts from Iraq to Afghanistan. The weapon's matte black finish absorbed the harsh fluorescent lighting, giving it the appearance of something carved from shadow itself. "You sure about this, Nightshade?" Martinez whispered as he checked the scope's calibration for the third time. His nervous energy was palpable, fingers drumming against the bipod's adjustment knobs. They had worked together for 8 months, long enough for him to recognize the subtle tells that preceded her most difficult shots. The way her breathing slowed to an almost meditative rhythm, the manner in which her hands became extensions of the weapon itself. Kira's response was a slight nod as she chambered around, the metallic click echoing through the cramped space with finality. Each .50 BMG cartridge represented more than just ammunition. It was a statement of intent, a promise written in brass and lead. She had hand-loaded these rounds herself, adjusting powder charges and bullet weights with the obsessive attention to detail that separated elite marksmen from weekend hunters. Commander Morrison appeared in the doorway, his expression a mixture of skepticism and barely controlled frustration. Alpha Team has been taking fire for 12 minutes. Every second you spend playing with your toys is another second my men are in the crosshairs. His words carried the sharp edge of command authority, but underneath lay something else. Desperation, perhaps, or the growing realization that conventional solutions had failed. "Sir, respectfully, precision takes time," Kira replied, her voice steady despite the implied criticism. She understood Morrison's position better than he realized. In the SEAL community, trust was earned through shared suffering and proven performance. She was an outsider, a Army sniper attached to a Navy operation, and worse still, a woman operating in a domain that had traditionally belonged to men who measured their worth in confirmed kills and enemy casualties. The radio crackled again, this time with the distinctive sound of someone speaking through gritted teeth. "Overwatch, Alpha 2-6. We're down to 40% ammunition. These bastards have us zeroed. We need that sniper support now, or we're going to start taking casualties." Morrison's face went rigid. Kira could see the war playing out behind his eyes, professional pragmatism battling against ingrained prejudices. His men were dying while he debated whether to trust someone whose qualifications existed primarily on paper, at least in his experience. Every commander faced moments when the theoretical became violently practical, when personnel files and training records meant less than the ability to deliver results under fire. "How long do you need?" he asked finally, the question carrying the weight of command decisions that would echo long after the shooting stopped. Kira was already moving toward the exit, her rifle slung across her back with practiced ease. "Give me 5 minutes to get into position. Then watch your radio." There was no bravado in her voice, no theatrical confidence designed to impress skeptical audience. Just the quiet certainty of someone who had performed this dance before, who understood that in the end, bullets cared nothing for gender or politics or preconceived notions. The journey to her chosen firing position took Kira through a maze of abandoned buildings and rubble-strewn streets that bore the scars of months of urban warfare. Each step was calculated, her boots finding purchase on broken concrete and twisted rebar, with the careful precision of someone who understood that noise discipline could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. Martinez followed 3 meters behind, his spotting scope and range-finding equipment distributed across his tactical vest like the tools of a deadly trade. The building she selected had been a school before the conflict transformed it into another casualty of modern warfare. Bullet holes decorated its walls in random patterns, creating abstract art from violence and desperation. The third floor offered an unobstructed view of the target zone, 800 meters of urban landscape that would test every skill she had acquired over 6 years of military service. "Range cards," she whispered, settling into her firing position behind a partially destroyed wall. The Barrett M82A1 found its natural rest against the concrete, its bipod legs adjusting automatically to accommodate the uneven surface. Through her scope, the world compressed into a narrow field of view where distance became academic and wind speed transformed into mathematical constants. Martinez began his litany of environmental factors, his voice barely audible above the distant sounds of automatic weapons fire. Wind, 3 to 5 knots from the southeast. Temperature, 82 degrees. Humidity, 60%. Range to primary target zone, 830 meters. Each data point fed into calculations that existed somewhere between science and art, the accumulated knowledge of countless hours spent studying ballistics tables and environmental conditions. The radio in Kira's ear carried the increasingly desperate communications from Alpha Team. "Overwatch, Alpha 1-6. We've got movement in Building Charlie. Multiple hostiles taking positions on the 2nd and 3rd floors. They've got us flanked if we try to advance." The voice belonged to someone young, probably a petty officer experiencing his first taste of sustained combat. Fear and professionalism warred in his tone, creating the distinctive sound of someone discovering what courage actually meant. Through her scope, Kira could see the muzzle flashes that betrayed enemy positions. Each hostile fighter was a problem to be solved, a geometric relationship between trajectory and target that existed independent of the human drama unfolding below. This was the mental compartmentalization that allowed snipers to function, the ability to reduce complex tactical situations to their essential mathematical components. "I've got eyes on 20-plus hostiles," she reported, her voice carrying the calm professionalism that had earned her respect in previous deployments. "Multiple firing positions across 3 buildings. They're using coordinated fields of fire to pin down your advance elements." Her analysis painted a picture of enemy fighters who understood small unit tactics, who had transformed defensive positions into interlocking kill zones. Commander Morrison's response crackled through the radio with undisguised urgency. "Can you neutralize them?" It was the question that reduced all military theory to its most practical application, the ability to kill enemy combatants before they killed friendly forces. Kira's answer came in the form of chambering her first round. The first shot came at 3:58 hours, the Barrett's thunderous report echoing across the urban landscape like the voice of some ancient god pronouncing judgment. Through her scope, Kira watched the .50 caliber bullet traverse 800 meters of hostile airspace in less than a second, its trajectory calculated with the precision of advanced mathematics and the instinct born from thousands of practice rounds. The target, a fighter positioned behind a concrete barrier on the 3rd floor of Building Charlie, simply ceased to exist. The massive bullet, weighing over 700 grains and traveling at nearly 3,000 feet per second, delivered kinetic energy equivalent to a small artillery shell. The effect was immediate and absolute, the kind of devastating precision that redefined the tactical equation for everyone involved. "Confirmed hit, Building Charlie, 3rd floor," Martinez reported, his voice carrying professional satisfaction mixed with something approaching awe. Through his spotting scope, he could observe the psychological impact on the remaining enemy fighters as they realized that their prepared positions had become death traps. "Target down. Remaining hostiles are repositioning." The radio erupted with excited chatter from Alpha Team. "Holy shit, Overwatch. Where did that come from?" The voice belonged to the same young petty officer whose fear had been evident moments before. Now his tone carried the distinctive relief of someone who had discovered that superior firepower was shifting in his favor. Commander Morrison's voice cut through the celebration with tactical focus. "Nightshade, I've got multiple muzzle flashes from Building Alpha, 2nd floor. They're trying to flank my advance element from the east." His previous skepticism had been replaced by something approaching respect, the grudging acknowledgement that results spoke louder than preconceptions. Kira's second shot followed 23 seconds later, the Barrett's massive recoil absorbed by her body position, and the weapon's advanced muzzle brake. Another target eliminated, another problem solved with the mathematical certainty of superior ballistics. The psychological effect on the remaining hostiles was becoming evident through her scope. Their coordinated fire was deteriorating into panicked individual actions, as disciplined fighters discovered that concealment no longer guaranteed survival. "Building Alpha clear," she reported, already shifting her aim toward the 3rd structure. The target-rich environment demanded rapid target acquisition and immediate engagement, the kind of sustained precision shooting that separated elite marksmen from conventional soldiers. Each shot required complete recalculation of environmental factors. Each trigger pull demanded absolute confidence in her calculations. Martinez continued his steady stream of tactical intelligence, his spotting scope providing the detailed observation that kept her informed about enemy movements. "I've got 3 hostiles displaced from Building Bravo, moving toward the alley system. Looks like they're trying to establish a new firing line." His professional calm provided the stability that allowed her to focus entirely on the technical aspects of long-range precision shooting. The 3rd shot eliminated a fighter who had been attempting to set up a machine gun position in a 2nd-floor window. The 4th removed a sniper who had been engaging Alpha Team from a concealed position behind rubble. Each elimination simplified the tactical equation, reducing the enemy's capability to maintain coordinated resistance. Jesus Christ, Morrison's voice carried undisguised amazement. Nightshade, you're dropping them faster than we can count them. Alpha Team, you are cleared to advance. Your overwatch is working. By the 6-minute mark, 12 enemy fighters had been eliminated with surgical precision, each shot demonstrating the kind of technical mastery that transformed abstract training into practical battlefield dominance. Kiera's breathing remained controlled, her heart rate steady despite the sustained engagement that would have left most marksmen exhausted and shaking. This was the physical and mental conditioning that separated elite military snipers from civilian shooters, the ability to maintain peak performance under conditions that destroyed normal human function. The remaining 8 hostiles had abandoned their prepared positions, their coordinated defense collapsing into individual survival instincts as they discovered that static positions meant certain death. Through her scope, Kiera could observe their desperate attempts to establish new firing positions, their movements increasingly erratic as tactical discipline gave way to panic and desperation. "They're running," Martinez observed, his spotting scope tracking multiple targets as they attempted to escape through the building complex's rear approaches. "Looks like they're trying to reach that vehicle compound about 400 meters south of their original positions." His professional assessment carried implications about the rapidly changing tactical situation. Mobile targets required different engagement techniques than static ones. Commander Morrison's voice reflected the tactical momentum that was shifting decisively in Alpha Team's favor. "Nightshade, can you interdict their escape routes? My boys are advancing, but these bastards could regroup and hit us from a different angle." The question acknowledged her role as the decisive factor in an engagement that had seemed impossible just minutes before. Kiera's 7th shot caught a fleeing fighter at nearly 900 meters, the bullet's trajectory requiring complex calculations to account for the increased range and moving target. The .50 caliber round struck with the same devastating effect, eliminating another threat and demonstrating the kind of advanced marksmanship that existed at the intersection of art and science. The psychological effect on the remaining hostiles was now complete. Their organized resistance had been systematically destroyed by a single marksman, whose position they couldn't locate, and whose capabilities exceeded anything in their tactical experience. The survivors abandoned all pretense of coordinated action, their escape attempts becoming increasingly desperate as they realized that distance provided no safety from her precision. "Alpha Team, this is Overwatch." Morrison's voice carried the confidence of a commander whose tactical problems were being solved faster than he could identify them. "You are cleared for full advance. Enemy resistance has been neutralized. I say again, threat eliminated." The formal military language couldn't quite conceal his amazement at the speed and completeness of the tactical transformation. Martinez provided the final count with professional satisfaction. 18 confirmed kills in 7 minutes, 40 seconds. Remaining 2 hostiles have broken contact and are moving beyond engagement range. His spotting had been instrumental in the engagement's success, providing the detailed observation that allowed Kiera to maintain her devastating rate of precision fire. The radio fell silent except for the distant sounds of Alpha Team advancing through positions that had been death traps just minutes before. Commander Morrison's voice, when it finally came, carried a tone that acknowledged the complete transformation of his tactical assumptions. "Nightshade, this is Alpha 6. Mission accomplished. Your shooting just saved my entire team." The debriefing took place in the same operations tent, where Commander Morrison had questioned Kiera's capabilities less than 2 hours earlier. The atmosphere had undergone a transformation as complete as the tactical situation she had dominated with her Barrett M82A1. Maps and tactical displays showed the aftermath of an engagement that would be studied in military academies for years to come. 20 enemy fighters eliminated by a single marksman in under 8 minutes of sustained precision fire. Morrison sat across from her, his expression carrying the weight of assumptions that had been systematically destroyed by practical results. His tactical vest still bore the dust and debris from the urban battlefield, physical evidence of an operation that had begun as a potential disaster and ended as a textbook demonstration of superior marksmanship. The silence between them stretched with unspoken acknowledgments and professional reassessments. 18 confirmed kills, he said finally, his voice carrying professional respect that hadn't been present earlier. Martinez confirms every shot. Clean kills, minimal ammunition expenditure, 0 friendly fire incidents. The statistics represented more than numbers. They painted a picture of technical mastery that existed at the absolute pinnacle of military precision shooting. Kira's response was characteristically understated, her voice carrying the same calm professionalism that had defined her radio communications during the engagement. "Just doing my job, sir." The simplicity of her statement concealed the years of training and the accumulated experience that had made the morning's performance possible. In her world, extraordinary results were simply the expected standard. Martinez provided additional details from his spotting position, his observations adding tactical context to the numerical results. Average time between shots was 28 seconds. That includes target acquisition, range calculation, and environmental adjustments. I've never seen sustained precision shooting at that level. His professional assessment carried the authority of someone who had worked with multiple snipers across different deployments. The tactical implications were becoming clear to Morrison as he reviewed the engagement from a strategic perspective. Alpha Team had been facing a tactical nightmare: 20 well-positioned enemy fighters with coordinated fields of fire and prepared defensive positions. Conventional solutions would have required artillery support, close air support, or a much larger ground element with correspondingly higher casualty risks. "You just redefine what's possible with precision fire support," Morrison admitted, his previous skepticism replaced by something approaching professional admiration. "My boys were looking at a meat grinder, and you turned it into a turkey shoot." The colorful language reflected his Navy background, but the underlying respect was unmistakable. The radio crackled with reports from Alpha Team as they completed their advance through the cleared buildings. "Overwatch, Alpha 2-6. We've secured all 3 structures, recovered significant intelligence materials and weapons caches, 0 friendly casualties." The successful completion of their mission objectives had been made possible by eliminating the defensive positions that would have made conventional assault prohibitively expensive. Kira began the methodical process of cleaning her Barrett, her hands moving with practiced efficiency through the maintenance procedures that kept precision weapons functioning at peak performance. Each component received careful attention, the kind of obsessive care that elite marksmen understood was inseparable from operational success. "Nightshade," Morrison's voice carried a formality that acknowledged changed circumstances. "I owe you an apology, and my boys owe you their lives." Word of the engagement spread through forward operating base Phantom, with the velocity typically reserved for significant tactical developments. By evening, Kira found herself fielding congratulations from personnel who had previously regarded her with polite indifference. The transformation in attitudes was as swift as her elimination of the morning's targets, professional respect replacing the subtle skepticism that had characterized her reception among the special operations community. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, a veteran of multiple deployments who had initially questioned her assignment to their forward element, approached her position near the communications array. His expression carried the kind of professional acknowledgement that was earned through demonstrated competence rather than administrative decree. "Heard you put on quite a show this morning, Nightshade. Morrison's boys are calling it the finest display of precision shooting they've ever witnessed." The compliment reflected a broader shift in perceptions that extended beyond individual opinions to encompass institutional attitudes about women in combat roles. Kira's performance had provided empirical evidence that challenged assumption while delivering results that spoke louder than any policy directive or sensitivity training. Her shooting had created facts that were impossible to argue with or dismiss. Martinez found her performing maintenance on her optics, the ritual of equipment care that separated professional soldiers from amateurs. "You know they're going to want to write this up," he said, referring to the after-action reports that would document the morning's engagement for future tactical analysis. 18 kills in 8 minutes is going to grab attention at higher headquarters levels. The prospect of increased scrutiny was something Kira approached with characteristic pragmatism. Military bureaucracy had a tendency to transform operational successes into administrative complications, generating requirements for briefings and explanations that detracted from the essential business of maintaining combat readiness. Let them write whatever they need to write. Numbers don't lie. Commander Morrison appeared as she completed her equipment inspection, his presence signaling continued evolution in their professional relationship. The morning's skepticism had been replaced by something approaching mentorship, the recognition that exceptional performance deserved institutional support rather than bureaucratic obstacles. "Nightshade, I just finished my conversation with higher headquarters," he began, his tone carrying implications about developments beyond their immediate operational environment. "They're interested in your techniques and training background. Seems like your performance this morning is generating questions about how we identify and develop precision marksmen." The conversation represented larger implications about military adaptation and institutional learning. Effective organizations studied their successes as carefully as their failures, extracting lessons that could be applied to future operations. Kira's demonstration of advanced marksmanship had provided a case study in individual excellence that challenged conventional assumptions about capability development. "Sir, respectfully, my techniques aren't revolutionary," she responded with characteristic modesty. "It's just consistent training and attention to fundamentals." Her assessment reflected a professional understanding that extraordinary performance usually resulted from exceptional commitment to basic principles rather than exotic innovations or secret methodologies. The evening brought additional visitors as word continued to spread throughout the base. Each conversation carried similar themes: professional respect, institutional interest, and the gradual recognition that preconceptions about gender and combat effectiveness had been empirically challenged through practical demonstration. 3 days after the engagement, Kira received notification that her performance had generated interest at levels far above Forward Operating Base Phantom. The message, delivered through official channels, requested her presence at a briefing that would include senior leadership from multiple service branches and components of the special operations community. The invitation represented recognition that transcended immediate tactical implications. The briefing room at Regional Command Headquarters contained an audience that represented the institutional memory of American Special Operations. Colonels and Navy captains who had commanded operations from Afghanistan to Iraq, senior enlisted personnel whose experience spanned decades of continuous combat deployments, and staff officers whose responsibility included identifying and developing exceptional military talent. Staff Sergeant Volkov. The briefing began with formal military courtesy that acknowledged both her rank and her recent operational success. "Your performance 3 days ago has generated significant interest throughout the special operations community. We're here to understand how individual excellence can be identified, developed, and integrated into our operational planning." The questions that followed reflected institutional curiosity about the intersection of individual capability and organizational effectiveness. How had her training prepared her for sustained precision shooting under combat conditions? What environmental factors had influenced her tactical decisions? How could her techniques be transmitted to other marksmen facing similar operational challenges. Kiera's responses demonstrated the same professional competence that had characterized her shooting, each answer providing practical insights without unnecessary embellishment. The key is consistent practice under variable conditions. Most training occurs in controlled environments that don't replicate the stress and complexity of actual combat situations. Her analysis touched on broader themes about military training and readiness. The gap between peacetime preparation and wartime performance had been a persistent challenge throughout military history. The difference between theoretical knowledge and practical application that separated effective soldiers from administrative personnel who happened to wear uniforms. Commander Morrison provided additional context from his perspective as the supported commander, whose tactical problems had been solved through her intervention. Staff Sergeant Volkov didn't just demonstrate superior marksmanship. She solved a tactical problem that would have required significantly more resources and time using conventional approaches. The discussion evolved toward institutional implications about capability development and resource allocation. Individual excellence, while valuable, needed to be understood within broader organizational contexts that could identify, develop, and employ exceptional personnel effectively. Kiera's performance represented a data point in larger questions about human potential and military effectiveness. The session concluded with formal recognition of her contribution to operational success and institutional learning. But for Kiera, the most significant outcome was the growing understanding that her shooting had created opportunities for other women who would follow her into combat roles that had previously been closed to them. Her example had proven that capability mattered more than category, that results spoke louder than preconceptions, and that individual excellence could challenge institutional assumptions while advancing broader military effectiveness. 2 weeks later, Kiera found herself assigned to a specialized training program designed to develop advanced marksmanship capabilities across service branches. The assignment represented institutional recognition that her skills could be transmitted to other personnel while contributing to broader military effectiveness. Fort Bragg, North Carolina, would become the laboratory for testing whether individual excellence could be systematized and replicated. The Precision Marksmanship Development Program brought together the finest shooters from Army, Navy, Marine Corps, and Air Force Special Operations elements. Each participant had been selected based on demonstrated performance in operational environments, their collective experience representing thousands of hours of combat shooting and tactical engagement. Kiera found herself among personnel whose reputations had been earned through the same kind of practical demonstration that had marked her own emergence. Master Sergeant David Thompson, a Special Forces veteran whose precision shooting credentials included multiple combat deployments and instructor certifications, served as the program's senior enlisted advisor. His introduction to the assembled marksmen reflected institutional evolution about capability and performance. This program exists because operational requirements demand levels of precision that exceed traditional training standards. Each of you represents proven excellence that we need to understand and replicate. The curriculum that emerged from their collective experience challenged conventional approaches to marksmanship training. Rather than focusing exclusively on mechanical techniques, the program emphasized decision-making under stress, target prioritization in complex environments, and the psychological factors that influence performance during sustained engagements. Kiera's contribution centered on environmental adaptation and rapid target acquisition techniques. Most training scenarios assume ideal conditions, she explained during a presentation that drew from her recent operational experience. Combat shooting requires adaptation to variables that can't be controlled or predicted. Wind speed, lighting conditions, target behavior, time constraints. Each factor influences the mathematical relationship between shooter and target. Her analysis provided theoretical framework for practical skills that had previously been understood through intuition rather than systematic instruction. The ability to maintain precision during sustained engagements required physical conditioning, mental preparation, and technical mastery that functioned as integrated system rather than separate capabilities. The other participants brought complementary expertise from different operational backgrounds. Marine Scout snipers contributed techniques for urban environments and observation skills. Navy SEALs provided insights about maritime and amphibious operations. Air Force Special Operations personnel offered perspectives about support for unconventional warfare scenarios. The collective knowledge represented in that classroom transformed individual experience into institutional capability. Each marksman's practical expertise became part of a broader understanding about human potential and technical mastery that would influence military training for years to come. Kiera's role in catalyzing this development reflected the broader implications of her 8-minute engagement at Forward Operating Base Phantom. Her shooting had proven that individual excellence could challenge institutional assumptions while advancing military effectiveness. Now, her teaching would help ensure that such excellence could be identified, developed, and employed systematically across the special operations community. The transformation from questioned newcomer to recognized expert had required only 18 precise shots and 8 minutes of sustained precision fire. 6 months after her legendary engagement, Kiera received orders that would take her beyond the training environment at Fort Bragg into operational assignments that reflected her evolved status within the Special Operations community. The assignment to Marine Special Operations Command represented institutional recognition that expertise transcended service boundaries, that demonstrated capability mattered more than organizational affiliation or traditional career paths. Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, provided a different operational environment where her skills would be integrated into maritime and amphibious special operations scenarios. The Marines who would serve as her new teammates brought different tactical perspectives and operational requirements that would challenge her adaptability while expanding her professional expertise. Colonel Sarah Mitchell, the commanding officer who had requested Kiera's assignment, represented the kind of institutional leadership that prioritized results over preconceptions. Her own career had been marked by firsts: first woman to command a Marine Special Operations unit, first female officer to complete certain advanced training programs, first to demonstrate that capability transcended traditional gender roles in combat environments. Staff Sergeant Volkov, Colonel Mitchell began during their initial meeting, your reputation precedes you, but reputation earned in one environment doesn't automatically translate to success in different operational contexts. Marine Special Operations requires adaptation to maritime environments, amphibious operations, and support for unconventional warfare scenarios. The challenge represented professional evolution rather than bureaucratic relocation. Each operational environment demanded specific skills and adaptations while building upon fundamental capabilities. Kiera's precision shooting would need to be integrated into tactical scenarios that included support from ships, operations in coastal environments, and engagement of targets under conditions that differed significantly from her previous experience. Master Gunnery Sergeant Carlos Reyes, a veteran of multiple combat deployments whose experience spanned from Iraq to Afghanistan, would serve as her operational partner and institutional guide. His assessment of her capabilities would be based entirely on practical performance rather than previous achievements, the kind of professional evaluation that separated reputation from demonstrated competence. Nightshade, he said, using the call sign that had followed her from Forward Operating Base Phantom. The Marines have heard about your shooting. Now we need to see if you can adapt those skills to our operational requirements. His tone carried professional respect mixed with institutional skepticism, acknowledgement of her previous success combined with understanding that each operational environment presented unique challenges. The training scenarios that followed tested her adaptability across multiple dimensions. Shooting from naval platforms required compensation for different stability conditions. Coastal operations involved environmental factors that differed from urban or desert contexts. Support for amphibious assaults demanded target engagement under time constraints that challenged even her proven capabilities. Each exercise provided opportunities to demonstrate that individual excellence could transcend operational boundaries while contributing to mission success. Kiera's performance validated institutional assumptions about the transferability of elite capabilities, while proving that her 8-minute engagement had been representative of sustainable competence rather than exceptional luck. Her integration into Marine Special Operations represented broader themes about institutional learning and adaptation. Military organizations that identified and employed exceptional personnel effectively gained significant advantages over those constrained by traditional assumptions about capability and assignment. The first operational deployment with Marine Special Operations Command took Kiera to coastal regions, where her precision shooting skills would support maritime interdiction operations targeting weapons smuggling networks. The assignment combined familiar tactical requirements with environmental challenges that tested her adaptability while providing opportunities to demonstrate capability in new operational contexts. USS Hampton, a Virginia-class attack submarine, served as the forward staging platform for operations that would require coordination between maritime and land-based elements. The cramped quarters and technical complexity of submarine operations represented institutional environments that few Army personnel experienced, challenging her professional flexibility while expanding her understanding of joint military operations. Lieutenant Commander Rebecca Stone, the submarine's weapons officer, provided tactical briefings that emphasized the precision required for successful mission execution. These interdiction operations require coordination between multiple platforms operating in environments where communication is limited, and tactical situations can change rapidly, she explained, her professional demeanor reflecting the technical competence that characterized submarine warfare specialists. The targets were weapons smuggling operations that used high-speed boats and coastal hiding places to transport military-grade equipment to insurgent networks operating throughout the region. Each interdiction required precise timing, accurate intelligence, and the ability to engage targets under conditions that provided minimal opportunity for second chances. Kiera's role would involve precision shooting from helicopter platforms, supporting boarding operations, and providing overwatch for Marines conducting searches of suspected vessels. The maritime environment introduced variables, aircraft stability, salt spray, changing light conditions, that challenged her technical mastery while requiring adaptation of techniques developed for land-based operations. Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes served as her operational partner, his experience with amphibious operations providing tactical expertise that complemented her precision shooting capabilities. The ocean doesn't provide the same reference points as land-based shooting, he observed during their pre-deployment preparations. You'll need to adapt your techniques for moving platforms, limited engagement windows, and targets that might disappear beneath the waterline. Their first mission involved interdiction of a high-speed smuggling vessel, attempting to deliver weapons to insurgent forces operating along the coastline. Intelligence indicated that the boat carried sophisticated equipment, including anti-aircraft missiles that could threaten friendly aviation assets if they reached their intended destination. The helicopter insertion at dawn provided Kiera's first opportunity to demonstrate maritime precision shooting under operational conditions. Through her scope, she could observe the target vessel attempting to evade capture while maintaining course toward coastal hiding places that would complicate interdiction efforts. The shot that disabled the boat's engine at 800 meters demonstrated that her legendary capabilities extended beyond land-based operations. Her bullet, precisely placed to neutralize mechanical systems without endangering the crew, brought the vessel to a stop while enabling Marines to conduct boarding operations without casualties. The successful interdiction represented validation of institutional decisions about capability employment and cross-service integration. Individual excellence, when properly supported and employed, transcended traditional organizational boundaries while advancing broader military objectives. 3 months into her deployment with Marine Special Operations Command, Kira had participated in 17 successful interdiction operations, each mission contributing to the systematic disruption of weapons smuggling networks that threatened regional stability. Her precision shooting from helicopter platforms had become the decisive factor in operations that would have been significantly more complex and dangerous using conventional tactics. The operational tempo had provided extensive practical experience with maritime precision shooting, challenging her adaptability while validating institutional assumptions about the transferability of elite capabilities. Each mission generated lessons about environmental adaptation, target engagement under constrained conditions, and coordination between different military platforms operating in complex tactical situations. Master Gunnery Sergeant Reyes had evolved from institutional skeptic to professional advocate, his assessment of her capabilities informed by direct observation of performance under operational stress. Nightshade has redefined what we consider possible for precision fire support in maritime environments, he reported during their mid-deployment assessment. Her shooting has transformed tactical options while reducing mission risk and complexity. The statistical summary of her performance reflected sustained excellence across multiple operational contexts. 43 precision shots, 41 successful target engagements, 0 friendly fire incidents, and mission success rates that exceeded previous baselines by significant margins. The numbers represented more than technical achievement. They painted a picture of individual capability that had become institutional advantage. Colonel Mitchell's visit to their forward operating base provided opportunity for broader assessment of the deployment's implications for future operations and personnel development. Her questions reflected institutional interest in understanding how exceptional performance could be identified, developed, and employed effectively across different operational environments and service boundaries. Staff Sergeant Volkov, she began during their formal interview, your performance over the past 3 months has generated interest at levels that extend well beyond Marine Special Operations. Higher Headquarters is asking questions about how individual excellence can be systematically integrated into joint operations and institutional planning. The conversation touched on broader themes about military effectiveness and human potential. Organizations that could identify exceptional personnel and employ their capabilities effectively gained significant advantages over those constrained by traditional assumptions about assignment and utilization. Kira's cross-service success provided evidence that talent transcended organizational boundaries. Ma'am, respectfully, Kira responded with characteristic directness. Individual performance depends on institutional support and operational employment. The Marines have provided both while allowing me to contribute to mission success. Her assessment reflected professional understanding about the relationship between individual capability and organizational effectiveness. The deployment's success had implications that extended beyond immediate operational results to encompass broader questions about talent identification, cross-service integration, and the systematic development of exceptional military capabilities. Her performance had provided practical evidence that challenged traditional assumptions while advancing institutional learning. As the deployment entered its final month, Kira found herself considering the trajectory that had taken her from questioned newcomer at Forward Operating Base Phantom to recognized expert operating across service boundaries.